Hi.
Hi, you pop it all right in. Yeah, I see you. So everything is. We're just gonna wait a couple of minutes so the people.
No problem.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for inviting me.
thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Sorry if
Yeah.
you hear any noise in the background. It's getting close to our fire bonfire night in the UK, so there's
Oh,
a lot of fireworks in the background.
yeah, that's amazing. So we're gonna just wait a couple of more minutes and then I'm gonna do Croatian and then English. Yeah. So.
Sure, take your time. There we go.
I think I can start now, maybe.
Fab.
Of now it's yeah, a couple of more minutes or. Um, ok, I'm gonna go on Croatian. Pozdrav svima, dobro večer, dobrodošli na prvu epizodu Cruelty Free Talk. Ukoliko vidite i čujete nas, molim vas da napišete barem u komentar, tako da znam da ste tu ili mahnite ili kliknite. Ovaj razgovor sada će biti na engleskom jeziku i iz poštovanja prema gošći molim vas da pišete i pitate samo na engleskom jeziku. Sa strane, kao što vidite, imate mali kružić sa upitnikom i tu možete postavljati pitanja ili ukoliko vam je lakše, možete isto tako u komentar napisati pitanja. Tako da ako mi je jasno, slobodno stavite thumbs up samo da vidim jel ide sve. Ok, čujete, vidite, dobro. So I think we can start, yeah. Yeah. So hi everyone and welcome to Cruelty Free Talks. And the first episode of Cruelty Free Talks. And today I'm really excited because I'm joined by Savita, who is the founder of Medicine Without Cruelty, and innovative and promoting medical research and innovation without animal testing. So, Savita, thank you, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And yeah, and I have some couple of questions that is going to pop off my mind in this live. So I hope you're going to, answer them and see. So to start this live, I really wonder, could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us more about Medicine Without Cruelty began and your journey?
Thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, fine,
Oh,
just fine.
perfect.
So,
Okay, so nice to meet everyone. My name is Savita. I am a former clinical scientist, so that means, and specifically in genetics. So I spent a number of years either studying or training or working to understand the genetic diagnosis of diseases. So my background is all in molecular biology and the medical sciences. And then I worked in hospital laboratories for a number of years to be able to identify the cause of genetic diseases. So I would identify the cause and report this back to the clinical team managing that patient. Remember, this is all human diagnosis.
yeah.
And I'd be directing them on how to either manage or treat that genetic disease. And then we have, partner testing and further, family identification as well. Now, after that, I went into research for a little bit, and that's where my eyes were opened on animal research and what goes on. And though the work that I was going to do was completely animal free, I knew that I was surrounded by that constant question, oh, why, take this, you can do this animal testing instead. This will be great for your work. Why don't you include that in your study? And I kept saying no, no, no. So it was quite clear within 3 months of taking that job that I am not going to be able to do this. It's putting me down a path that I don't want to go down. So saying no at that time felt like the hardest thing. But when I knew that animal testing was completely wrong, not only on a moral level, but also scientifically as well, I just could not agree with it. And the science was very clear that it just does not work. So I left it, and it was a great time. You know, for anyone who's ever thinking of changing careers, after a good 10 years in a job, in a career in one industry, you look back and you kind of wonder, what is it that drew me to that career pathway in the first place? What is it do I enjoy in that job? What could I do next? Because I kind of didn't want to go back to being a clinical scientist, because I almost felt that looking at the other side, going into, from diagnosis to therapy, that we're not doing enough for our patients because we are using animals. It's, it's a completely unnecessary, completely outdated, and shocking reproducibility.
Yeah,
So why are we treating it as a gold standard? So coming back to what I enjoyed out of my career in sciences, I loved communicating it. I loved
yeah,
educating other scientists. I loved educating the next generation, and so that kind of brought me over to, okay, I should teach, I should lecture, which is it's been a fantastic journey. I started teaching in college biology, and I started actually with the first kind of group of students I had, and they were doing a diploma, which will take them into an allied health professional degree. So that's like physiotherapy, nursing, all the kind of allied health professions, all that range that you see within a
yeah,
hospital. And I started talking to them like, did you know that, your medicines are tested on animals, that it's a regulatory requirement? Did you know that it's about 95% of them don't make it to your medical cabinet because they go through this completely unnecessary step, and it doesn't work, of animal testing. And they were shocked. I thought, I want to create a platform to tell more people. I want to just keep on telling people this is wrong. Why are we doing this? Start pulling out the statistics. So that's kind of where Medicine Without Cruelty, I kind of started it in that same year. So it was yeah, yeah, 2023 I started Medicine Without
yeah.
Cruelty.
And now it's
And
2025-ish. So that's
2025, I'm
inspiring
still
journey.
here.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
some
still
people
here.
wonder what motivates someone from working in the labs and advocating for alternative research. So,
Mm,
what was the moment that inspired you, and how was your personal? You talked about it, but personal transition from working in the labs and then
yeah.
for the thing you just said for the alternative research methods.
Okay, sure. So my kind of personal, what inspired me to leave a career in research was, well, when you're studying in the sciences, you get told about animal testing, whether or not you're directly interacting with it or not, you get to hear animals are necessary. You get to hear that narrative repeated over and over again. And what they use is Darwin's theory of evolution. The fact that we are genetically similar is reason enough for us to test on animals. And when you're working within, for example, gene therapies, like for example, take the chimpanzee. We are 99% similar to a chimpanzee. And yet, that 1% of difference causes critical changes, which affects not only our metabolism, our immunity, and how cells recognize and respond to each other. So, for example, chimpanzees, they process certain sugars differently to how our bodies do. So it changes how their body responds to disease. Their immune systems work completely differently. Now, all of these massive areas within us, if that doesn't work correctly, it means that we can't model a disease within an animal, especially even a chimpanzee that's 99% similar to us. And
Yeah.
that's when that was a curtain drop moment for me. And I thought, wow, okay, we are so genetically similar, and we still cannot replicate or model disease. And it really just hit me when those differences are the difference between a treatment that helps and a treatment that can cause devastating harm. We can't use animal tests to mirror human biology. And that was kind of the turning point for me, really. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter the animal,
Well,
you
I
know.
agree. I agree, and I see also in scientific way. But many people still wonder and are still unsure about what animal-free science really means. So, for those
Okay.
who aren't familiar, what exactly does animal-free science means and research means?
Okay, sure. That's a good question. So
Yeah, because
science
many
science is.
wonder, like,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. People probably think, isn't like 99% of science animal free? Isn't it just the 1%? It's like, no, there's a lot because we want science. Science has actually developed advanced and accurate. Remember, the tests that I'm talking about are accurate to study human health without harming animals. And that's what animal free is, right? That in no
yeah,
way that process of developing that non-animal method have you harmed an animal. And that can even be through animal-derived products, as we have fetal bovine serum,
yeah,
and that in itself is used in cell culturing, which people might think, oh, cell culturing, if you're using cell assays that involve human cells, oh, that can be completely animal free. But it depends on what they are including in that process. How are they growing those cells? Because we can now grow that using, products that are completely animal free serums to help grow those cells.
yeah. And
So
we talk about Elisa, and I was mentioning you that I believe that Elisa in the
yes.
future will be totally humane, but now
Mm.
it's animal products in there. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
I mean
antibodies is always a fascinating one, isn't it?
that it's really enlightening. Yeah, in in which areas of medicine have these alternative methods shown the most promising results so far? Have
Okay,
you
so
seen
the
it? I
yeah,
like
sure. Okay, me being the geneticist that I am, I will talk about cystic fibrosis. Now, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease, and is actually one of the clearest examples of why animal testing fails to replicate complex human disease. Because people often think that there's that misconception that you need a complex animal system in order to
yeah,
mirror human biology. But cystic fibrosis shows you very clearly, like it affects multiple organ systems. So it's classically defined as your pancreas, having insufficiency in your pancreas, lung infections, digestive issues, growth, immunity, all of that is
connected.
integrally kind of, yeah, connected to cystic fibrosis. But animal testing, it can't it can't recreate the human experience of that disease. For example, you can't replicate that full spectrum of cystic fibrosis, whether it's, mice can't spontaneously develop those lung infections. Even genetically designed pigs, ferrets with cystic fibrosis, that those lung infections, they don't progress the same as it does in humans. So no animal replicates that full spectrum of cystic fibrosis. And what we found with cystic fibrosis is that human-based methods such as patient-derived organoids, so organ-like tissues, they offer a complete and predictive platform for understanding and treating complex disease. And before I talk about cystic fibrosis treatment, I just want to go back that CF is not the only exception. It's the rule that actually animal testing continues to fail humans across every major field of medicine. I mean, take Alzheimer's, for example. Mice have been cured countless times, but 99% of Alzheimer's drugs fail.
Yeah,
There was a paper recently about sepsis. We about there's probably been almost 200 treatments that have succeeded in mice that have all failed in humans. Same with type 1 diabetes, cancer, stroke, ALS, you name it.
yeah.
And
And also
it's a
I saw some news, some research that 70% fails on the liver disease. Uh, so in the mice,
absolutely,
it's like
absolutely.
a
I'll
really,
come to
really
liver.
big, big percent.
And your liver's the most important, when you're testing drug toxicity. So you're looking at a pharmaceutical drug that's been identified, it goes through clinical trials. One of the most major reasons why it ends up failing in humans is because of the toxicity buildup within the liver. So that's drug-induced liver injury that can cause up to 37% failure rate. And actually, they designed a liver organ on a chip, and this was published in Nature a few years ago. I believe it was a 2022 paper. You probably know it, but that
Yeah,
paper was groundbreaking because it showed that it was accurate, it was reliable, it was sensitive, and it was predicting toxicities that was missed by animals. So
yeah,
some of the if these drugs had passed through animals and into humans, it could have caused devastation. It has historically and could still be causing devastating disease in humans.
yeah.
So actually, that liver on a chip, going back to your question, is actually one of the clearest examples of showing promising results in the drug testing process. But actually, also cystic fibrosis was very interesting because you know they tested the treatment for ivacaftor. I don't know if you know this, but they designed this disease specifically for patients with a quite a common mutation. It's called G551D, and it's one of the most challenging subtypes of cystic fibrosis. And that treatment only came to light because researchers used human cell-based methods it was lab grown human cells to study the disease directly. And they rapidly found that it had dramatic improvements in lung function, fewer lung flare ups. Patients had gained that weight back on. And it was, things that animal studies had failed to uncover. And it just shows how human relevant science can lead to life changing treatments that could have been missed if we had relied on animals. And I just think, I go back to CF so many times in a lot of my talks, and it's because when we rely on human-based non-animal methods, we make real progress. And it constantly reaffirms why I left that previous job, why I'm here educating students of all
Yeah.
ages on
And
why
even
animal testing.
on the bigger scale, yeah, you have now, and in America, FDA, they're now totally open about, animal-free science because they saw the progress,
Yeah,
and that's amazing. And they even talk about in veterinary medicine,
mm,
on chip animals, like animal,
I've
cell on
I've
chip.
seen.
That's like they are thinking about it. So I think it's gonna be like totally off with the animal testing. Even on animals, they're. So I think we are up on
Yeah.
something new and better. And when we talk about this bigger scale,
Mm,
legislation, education, and research, we talk about research now, practices.
mm.
In your opinion, what would be the key change needed to accelerate the transition of this animal-free science?
Sorry, you cut out there in the middle. What was
Oh,
your,
okay.
sorry,
Well,
what was
okay,
your,
I
you
need
said
to
what you
think
talked about
about it. Okay.
change.
So, in your opinion, what would be the key change needed to accelerate the transition of animal-free science?
Okay,
So, what's
yes.
like the
Okay.
key? You know?
And it ties back into what you mentioned a bit earlier. I mean, you mentioned about even with veterinary sciences as well. It's an interesting one because people, I've heard that argument said enough times to me. Oh, okay, fine, we can't use animals to test on humans. Can we use animals to test on animals? No, you can't use animals for veterinary treatment either. What you see is that breeds of dog, for example, they are so genetically distinct that you could not extrapolate results from a greyhound to a Labrador. because the way in which they process drugs, say their liver enzymes, are so different.
Yeah.
And I think one of the key things, the key change to accelerate that transition to animal free science is that basic understanding. You cannot use animals to save humans. You cannot use animals to save animals. We have these non-animal methods, and yes, it does have to be species specific. And I think that's where the confusion often comes from. So, for example, from say routine samples, remember an animal can't consent to any of this process,
Yeah.
right? So in if an owner, a pet owner said, was told by a vet, okay, that this hasn't gone through specific licensing, but we can just give it to your dog, what do you think? You wouldn't be taking that chance either, right? So you have these different types of methods. Say, for example, AI, artificial intelligence, which is emerging across every industry. It will revolutionize, end of animal testing as well. And I know I've gone off on a little tangent there, but you know, we have routine veterinary samples and things that are already, say, for example, a tumor that might have already been, resected from an animal, that can be used to design an organoid, right? And drugs can be tested there. It's just the
Yeah.
financial investment needs to be in
And it's
there.
easier.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So key changes: enforce a legislative ban, right? We need to stop breeding animals, because if someone says to you, "Oh, right, we'll phase out in 10 years," if in the UK we've got what, 2.6 million, that's
Yeah, you
still
have
2.6
really,
million.
high number with the dogs, and I see every day the people are protesting against it. So I
Yeah,
know
it
that you
is.
have like really, really big number of the beagles.
And before I forget anything, we have
Yeah.
just launched a petition. There is a petition. If anybody watching has a UK postcode, the petition is on my bio of Medicine Without Cruelty, where it is to end the use of animal testing, full
I'm
stop.
gonna share it on my,
Please,
my
please
story.
do. Thank you. I just
So
wanted
yeah,
to mention
so
that.
can
Yeah.
many people
And
can, share it. Yeah.
but we
So
need
what
to
about the
end
numbers of the animals they are using here in the Great Britain in the, in your
in
area?
Great Britain. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. So I mentioned it was 2.6 million in the last year. And out of, we have something called specially protected animals, and that means that within the legislation that their use should be highly regulated. And even still, there was, 1,651 dogs, so that's a specially protected species, 1,478 monkeys, 60 horses, and 35 cats.
Yeah.
Whilst there has been a slight, very, very meager decline in it's been an increase in cats we've seen. They they're still using these specially protected species, and it shows you something, that having this sort of regulation isn't working. What needs to happen is to firstly ban the breeding, you know, ban the testing, rapidly adopt animal free science today, because it's people think that animal free science is something that's only just come about. Organ on a chip has been around for the last 20 years.
Yeah. Long time ago. Yeah.
20
But people
years.
always think like that's new, like we
Yeah.
cannot trust it.
There's,
But it's
so
up here.
there's been
And
very little change that has happened to it in the last 20 years, but it was designed, and you know people, and it's performing. It's doing its job. It's accurate.
yeah,
It's picking up sense, and that combined with, for example, AI, it's revealing toxicities that we would have otherwise missed had we used animals.
yeah. Yeah, I see now in this chat, I think I see some of the colleagues who are actively working and studying and are following along. So here's a question they're probably curious about. And some of them already reach out to me asking. If I say yeah, some of them really reach out to me asking about it. So what message would you share with the students in biology, medicine, and pharmacy who want to enter this field or our field on
Yeah, yeah.
science. Yeah.
Absolutely. First of all, I applaud you for wanting to join it because I know Nick can agree with me that I know it's a big journey. It is a big journey, but it is so rewarding to finally be able to speak out and you find a piece of your own identity through it. I
Yeah.
have to say that I've I've really learned a lot, and I found such a community on this journey, Nick included. So if I had to give a example of what kind of things you could do, firstly, reach out to your professors, reach out to people within your universities, as nerve-wracking as it can be, ask those questions. Because I never did when I was in university, and I wish I did. I wish I did ask those questions. Why is it used? How are you using it? What is your institution's policies regarding animal research? What does it mean? What are they using it on? For example, there were universities here, a lot of protests happened about, I don't know if you've heard of the forced swim test, where
Yeah, yeah, I
rodents,
saw it. I saw it on LinkedIn. Yeah.
where the rodents they can't escape these jars of water. And it was used to determine, whether or not they had psychological decline, whether it was to test antidepressants, to see whether they would swim and they would keep on swimming, or whether they would, when they would just
Drown
give up.
and that.
I
Yeah.
was, it was horrible. And the students ones that protested, and they were the ones that raised their voice. And now, here in the UK, most stopped or in the process of stopping because of the action that has been done by both universities and organizations such as the People's Ethical Treatment of Animals, the PETA.
I didn't
I
know
think
that students. I really think that organizations did it, but I didn't know that
it's a
students did it.
combination. It's a
Yeah.
combination.
Oh my God, that's
Absolutely,
amazing. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that it's so important for students. You have such a voice within your institution. You are the people. They need,
Yeah.
remember, universities need you, right?
Yeah.
So start,
Yeah.
and look,
A
look
couple of
into
days
your
ago, I really knew that I have a voice. When I'm gonna mention, I'm not gonna mention here, but you know what
okay,
I
go for
mean.
it.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah. So, about the people who are watching
Mhm.
here,
Yeah.
some of them, and I often hear when I'm talking, people say that animal testing is still the only way to ensure that
Mm.
something is safe. And what are the most common misconceptions that ordinary non-science people have about animal-free testing?
Okay.
So,
Okay, so common misconceptions about animal
yeah,
testing. So this is the questions that I get asked all the time. So firstly, oh, it's a regulatory requirement. If it's required by law, then we have to do it. And actually, just because it's required by law does not mean, something has been there since, almost 50 years. Does not mean that it's fit for purpose, that it needs to be used. Actually, it needs to be in line with the current, scientific modern science environment. Modern science, if you look at, there was a really great paper, I might share it with you actually, but they did a paper where they looked at the last 20 years of bibliometric analysis. They looked at the literature in the last 20 years, and they looked at seven major disease areas. So, cancer, neurological diseases, breast cancer, etc. And they found that non-animal methods are outperforming, if not, they've dominated that space, right? And some of it's like, 5-1, some of the ratios. And so people need to understand that that regulatory requirement, it doesn't reflect modern day science. The other thing that I will often get, and is something that we touched on earlier, is about complex biological systems. That
yeah.
you need complex biology to actually look at. And what you're essentially saying with using an animal is you're putting something into a black box, and you don't know whether that result is going to be comparable to a human or to another species. And so, coming back to my example of cystic fibrosis, I think that's probably one of the most clearest examples that you can see that you can have a complex disease, but that does not mean that an animal, a complex system, will give you the answer. It's actually as simple as lab grown human cells and patient derived organoids, which showed the way forward.
No, yeah,
Um, the safety as well, we touched on that earlier. That's another common misconception, using animals as safer. No, it's not. Actually, there's been countless historical failures that have caused devastating harm and either life-threatening or it has caused death from drugs such as Vioxx, which was an anti-arthritic drug, Isopurel. There was a few more. I've got it on my website. I've got an entire list. It's in my website where it says humans suffer too. And there's an entire list of all the times where it's been, they're, it's not just been an, say, for example, an isolated tragedy. It's not just failing science, but it's also failing humans. So Vioxx caused about 320,000 heart attacks, strokes, and estimated 140,000 deaths. And it was tested, the thing is, it was tested in multiple animal species. It wasn't just tested in one, it was tested in many. And it was absolutely fine. So it made it to the human stage where it caused so much death before it was withdrawn. Isopurel, again, it was tested on rats, guinea pigs, dogs, monkeys. And the doses that were used on animal tests were, so high compared to what we would have put in a human. Even in a human, it caused 3,500 deaths in the UK alone. So these historical failures really need to highlight to people who are saying, it produces safer drugs. No, it doesn't. No, it
yeah.
really doesn't.
So you made some interesting points, and now there are people are watching us and seeing how can the public contribute to advancing cruelty-free medicine for themselves and for the rest of the population.
Sorry, you
How
cut
can
out
public
there.
contribute to advancing cruelty-free medicine now that they
How
know this?
Oh, how can they contribute? Okay, that's a
Yeah,
really nice question. That, whether you're a scientist or not, you can contact your member of parliament. You can contact the political body that represents you in the country that you're in, and you can contact whether they have a scientific, a health unit, a ministry of agriculture, ministry for health. You can contact these departments and actually demand answers. And
yeah,
the more people that get behind this, the louder that voice becomes, whether it's joining social media campaigns or signing and sharing petitions or starting a petition. There's so much that you can do to contribute to ending animal testing, but also advancing cruelty-free, animal-free medicine.
yeah. Also, we are in EU. I mean, English is not anymore, but they can ask also in EU parliaments, you know, people from there who are also
Yeah,
doing the deeds. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, looking ahead now, you have amazing profile and amazing, you know, audience. And what are your plans and the goals for the Medicine Without Cruelty in the near future for
Okay.
now? And
Ah,
because you
no.
talk about cystic fibrosis, and I really want to know, the more of it.
Okay. So, with Medicine Without Cruelty, our mission is urgent and clear to, end the use of animals across all sectors of science, whether it's medicine, dental, veterinary,
Yeah.
beauty, as we talk often about as
Hello,
well.
beauty.
That's why, I really like your channel. And and also to educate students of all ages on non-animal methods. And I kind of, almost with my personal journey, I want to educate students on the science that I would have loved to have learnt, whether it's from an early age and it's about understanding compassion towards animals and understanding that we are here on this earth to live peacefully. with the animals around us. And that's kind of at a fundamental level what we need to teach our children. And then, it should be age appropriate. I've developed age appropriate resources all the way to university. And that's really embedding cruelty free or animal free science, however you want to call it, embedding it at every stage of the curriculum of the stages of science is exactly what Medicine Without Cruelty would like to do. I am developing an online module which students will be able to enroll in very soon. I have 3 courses already out there. The next course that I'm developing, which will be completely free, is a course on organ on a chip. So please watch this space. That'll be coming out in the coming weeks.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
will.
that's it. It's educating people on every platform, anywhere and however I can. So if you're interested, please do get in touch. I would love to hear from you if you work in a school, college, university, and you would like these resources or you'd like me to be involved in the teaching of it. I'm very happy. So yeah,
Yeah,
please do get in
that's
touch.
amazing. Oh, yeah, also I saw the other day that in Denmark they have in primary school they have especially subject that teach kindness to the animals and kindness to the
Ah,
that's amazing. I really wish
that's
that in Croatia we have
fantastic. That's
the,
fantastic.
such a
Wow.
subject that we know not just animals but treat people with kindness, and I think it's really important.
Mm.
And what message, like you already talked about, but what message would you like to leave now, and especially those who want to help bring the change to this world? You already taught something, but do you have some quote or anything that really, enlightens you, motivates you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. The one quote that has been fundamental to my life and the work that I do is a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, and it's the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. And that's kind of how it laid the foundational philosophy of Medicine Without Cruelty. We've taken such great strides as a society when it comes to the field of science and technology. I mean, look at where we are now with AI. Look at where we are with organ on a chip, organoids, all these animal-free technologies. But that the torturous and the barbaric nature of animal testing has still persisted despite its constant proven ineffectiveness and poor translation to providing human benefit. And there was another quote actually I should just mention before I stop, but there are always two parties: the party of the past and the party of the future, the establishment and the movement. And the tide is turning, that global tide, and we're all, you and me, we're part of that tide, that movement, where people are recognizing that animal testing does not work, and here are all the alternatives. And, it's a real message to institutions, students, anyone who is listening. You want to be part of the movement. You want to be part of the global tide that is already turning and have a job and a career that is aligned and is future proof. So
Yeah,
that's kind of what I wanted to leave with is stop animal testing immediately, use non-animal
that's
methods in
amazing. Yeah,
science.
I always think to people like you want safer science, you want science that cures. That's cruelty-free medicine. Science that cures. I mean, that's it.
Yes.
Savita, thank you so much for this amazing
Thank
conversation
you.
and all the work you do for the animals, ethics, and education.
Thank
And
you.
I think I see, I don't know. Now, if you have some questions, feel free to ask, and I don't know if they have some, or I'm just gonna check it. So people, now you can ask question if you have some question for Savita. You can comment it, or you can pop the question in this tiny balloon with the mark. I think I'm just gonna say it on Croatian for why. Dragi ljudi, znači ukoliko imate pitanja, slobodno možete pitati sada Savitu, tako da otvoreni smo, slobodno možete u komentar postaviti pitanje ako imate nešto, a samo molim vas postavite ga na engleskom jeziku kako bi ona razumjela, ako ima pitanja naravno. Pa ćemo evo pričekati još malo ukoliko bude. So, I think I don't see any questions for now.
That's fine. If anyone wants to get in touch, you can get in touch
Yeah.
via my social media. You can, my contact details are on my website, www.medicinewithoutcruelty.com. And yeah, well, it's been been a pleasure.
Yeah, and I really hope, I know it's a quick call, but I really hope that today talks inspire more people to learn about, oh yeah, that's a question. Okay, so we have some. I'm gonna,
Yeah,
read
yeah,
to you.
please.
How hard was your journey to get you to the point where you are now? And what was the situation that pointed you in this direction? So how
So,
hard was your journey to get you to the point where are you now? And what was the situation that pointed you in this direction? So this like two questions in the one. So how was your journey and that?
okay, so how was my journey from
How was hard
um
your journey? How hard
how
was your
hard was my
journey?
journey?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, absolutely. I was in a lucky position in some ways that I had qualifications. I had made sure that my previous, to be honest, it could have been so easy for me to have gone back to my previous role as a clinical scientist. I could have easily done it. I could have taken that easy road and decided that's it. I will go back to diagnosing human patients and that was it, because
I
it's
have to
animal
promote
free.
this animal-free testing. That's what I meant.
And then okay, but just very quickly,
Yeah.
for me, I could not stand to work somewhere and know that the patients that are coming into the hospital, uh, that we, that on the other side, we're not providing adequate care. We're not providing those treatments. We're not adopting animal-free technologies quicker, sooner. There's no legislation on it. And I think that was a difficulty for me, and that's kind of how my journey moved on. And sorry, what was your other question?
Other question, and what was the situation that pointed you in this direction? And what was the situation that pointed you in this direction?
What was the situation that pointed me in this direction? I suppose when I was in research, it was, you end up getting sucked into, oh, okay, here's this animal testing that's already been done. Why don't you take it? This is the question that I'd get. Why don't you just take this? Because you're going to be a while recruiting human patients to your study. Why don't you just take this results of this animal test and work on that instead? And I thought, I said no to that, and then I was doing another piece of work, and there was more animal testing involved. I said no to that, and I kept saying no, no, and it got to a point where I was like, if I continue down this road, it is going to be incredibly difficult for me to get through to the other side, to do a PhD that was completely animal free, and I suppose now if I go back to it and if I wanted to, I'd be very clear about whether or not my supervisor or was at least understanding or made sure that they would support my decision, and also the research funding as well, because that's a really important thing. The funding itself, it might not be animal free. Because if say for example, if you got it from a charity that was specifically animal free, it would mean that even if anybody asked you, oh, can you do this? Your hands would be tied. You would be going through this completely animal free
Yeah.
refunding pipeline. So yeah, for me it was difficult to stay pure in the the situation I was in. So I had to just say no and leave. And I knew
No,
that
that's brave. Many
to be on
people,
the other side, educating people.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's brave of you, really brave, because many people can handle the pressure. There's like, okay, or they just really want to do PhD because they, now we're
Yeah,
gonna
because
talk it, they really want to have PhD, but many
and
people are
I
not educated
mm,
or seeing seeing the reality of animal testing, and that's a problem because it really needs to have more education on this matter so people can
yeah.
understand and move forward. Yeah. So
And I really do appreciate the fact that it is very difficult to get a job, for full stop. It is difficult to get a job. And if you've done an undergraduate degree, you have a BSc in sciences, and you feel you are on a particular career track, I understand the need for a PhD is, the pressure involved
yeah,
is a lot. And especially if you're in a country where there is not much funding for animal-free research. And that's
here it's
why
not.
I want to be on the
You
other
know,
side.
here in Croatia, it's really rare to have other. It's much more animal
Yeah,
testing if you want to do it, and only like countries that pops up in my mind is like Germany, Vitelka in Germany,
yes.
Netherlands, and the UK. UK
So
is like the
there's
country
more.
you really want to go if you don't want to do tests on animals. So
So
yeah,
if
that's
I know,
the
I
reality
know.
of it.
Yeah, that is. I've put on my website, it's something that I'm constantly updating is if I ever find research funding or opportunities for animal-free research and sponsorship, I have collated a international list, and it's on my website underneath in the non-animal science for universities section. So please do have a look at that.
Yeah,
There is, and I've linked out to the main animal free funding bodies, the medical research charities that are animal free, and any supporting awards or educational awards or recognition, and roadmaps as well. So yeah, please do have a look, and I will
that's
continue to update
amazing.
it.
And
But
yeah, please support. Now that's amazing, and I'm really happy for this conversation. And please support and follow Sanita's work on
thank
Medicine
you.
Without Cruelty. It's a really amazing platform. I've seen it, but it's a really amazing platform to learn more of modern science. And I will save this live and add more about your work and your links
Cheers.
under the post so people can reach it and see it. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much on this
you.
kind cruelty-free
Thank you,
talk.
Nick.
And that's amazing. I don't know if you have more questions. I think not, but I'm really happy for the question. Thank you for asking it, and it's really amazing. So thank you, Savita, and we'll chat we'll chat
We'll
after.
chat. Yeah, we'll catch up
But yeah,
soon.
thank you
It was a
everyone for being
pleasure.
here. Hvala svima koji ste bili ovdje. Tako da hvala vam. Podržite Savitu na njezinim mrežama. Ja ću sve staviti, naravno, spremit ću ovaj live ispod obavijesti, ispod posta, tako da molim vas isto tako i zapratite i podržite. I that's it. Thank you, Savita, and have a great evening.
Thank
So
you.
we're
Take care.
gonna go. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
I need to.